Hello everyone, my name is Shama Pranita Burle and I'm a student of Johnson and Wales. In today's video, we are going to discuss the idea of agricultural exceptionalism, provide historical examples of labor and environmental laws, and define codex standards. Finally, we'll draw conclusion about whether or not agricultural exceptionalism has ended or is still needed. Agricultural exceptionalism embodies a form of structural oppression that represents farm workers' exclusion from the protection afforded to most laborers. Its origins can be traced back to the historical marginalization of farm workers during the period of slavery and sharecropping. This exclusion creates a scenario in which the agricultural sector gets paid the low wages and has poor working conditions. Historically, ranking as the lowest paid labor segment in the United States. This disparity in treatment contributes to farm worker poverty, whereas employees in the other industries have better wages and better working conditions. The story of agricultural exceptionalism is intertwined within numerous labor laws and has impact on environmental legislation. As displayed, we can see that the difference between the exempt and non-exempt workers. Roots of agricultural exceptionalism. The Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1933 aimed to control overproduction amongst farmers to limit the cost of crop prices. Under this act, farmers were restricted in number of crops they could produce. The government implemented this plan to ensure farmers remain financially stable. According to the Britannica Encyclopedia, the primary objective of Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1933 was to restore the price paid to the farmers for their goods to level similar to the purchasing power during the period of relatively stable. Coming to labor laws and agricultural exceptionalism, the National Labor Relation Act of 1935 aimed to safeguard the rights of private sector employees to organize and collectively bargain. It empowered workers to form unions for their collective benefit. However, notably, farm workers were not included in this act. An article by Gordon in 2021 highlighted the act essential underscore the belief that the organized labor group might struggle to effectively advocate for the rights and navigate conflicts with employers without further support. Heading forward to environmental legislation and agricultural exceptionalism, the Fair Labor Standard Act of 1938 was a monumental piece of legislation that established federal minimum wages and overtime requirement for labor exceeding 40 hours per week and laid out guidelines concerning child labor. However, within this act, small farm businesses were granted an exemption from both the minimum wages and overtime pay. The US Department of Labor stipulates that agriculture does not encompass work performed on a farm unless it is incidental or directly associated with farming operation conducted by the farm owner. Additionally, operations performed on a farm by an employee hired by someone other than the farm owner while working on agricultural products are also excluded from the scope of the act. It means that the employees who have been appointed by the workers have been exempted. We can see that the FALSA, Fair Labor Standard Act, and the minimum wages per hour in the USA. As per the USDA official website, the Codex Alimentarius Commission, initiated in 1963, represents a collaborative effort between the food and agricultural organizations and the World Health Organization that is FAO and the WHO, to create voluntary international standards, codes of practice, and guidelines. This initiative, known as Codex Alimentarius, encompasses various aspects related to food standards, notably with the Codex standards. The protection of farmers and farm workers is integrated into the fair trade category, which falls under the labor and environmental laws. The Clean Water Act and the Agricultural Exceptionalism. The Clean Water Act of 1972 was enacted to oversee and regulate the release of pollutants that impact water bodies within the United States. It sets the standards for water quality and management. This legislation makes exceptions for the agricultural sector due to the progress efforts of direct control over agricultural the act treats stormwater runoff farms differently, deeming agricultural activities as a point source of pollution. This distinction aims to spare farmers from excessive payments for runoff originating from their privately owned agricultural facilities. Additionally, it strives to safeguard water resources from potential harm caused by agricultural practices like irrigation, fertilization, and pesticide application. These activities often contribute to problems of transportation and sedimentation, which can diminish water quality in nearby water bodies. To encourage better farming practices, the Clean Water Act offers incentives for farmers to adopt measures like planting crop water cover crops, settling up buffer spreads, and reducing their use of fertilizers and pesticides. Furthermore, it provides financial support to assist farmers in implementing these practices, aiming to minimize the volume of pollutants carried away by the agricultural runoff. Exemption from greenhouse gas emission reduction. It means that a provision that exempts the agricultural sector from reduction in greenhouse gases emission where there is perceived hazard to food production is one of the environmental concern associated with climate change treaties. The exception is wide and extends to all countries. It does not target any particular country or group of risk in particular. The original legal foundation for this exemption in agricultural mitigation activities was established by the 1992 United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Changes. Nevertheless, this theory remained in place in spite of growing data showing the harmful effects that unchecked emission, including those of agricultural sources, will have an impact now and in the future of food production. Without any thoughts or debate, the same exception for the Framework Convention was easily transferred into the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. In contrast to the Clean Air Act, which was established in 1970 and amended over time, primarily focuses on regulating air pollutants emitted from various sources to protect public health and environment within the United States. It sets standards for air quality, mandates emission control for industries and vehicles, and addresses pollutants like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and particulate matter. According to me, in the conclusion, I think from the things which I have read, that the agricultural exceptionalism is still lacking in the United States, but it is still an issue in some places, and it may take considerable adjustments to eradicate it completely. Thank you for your time. Here are the references which have been used for this video.